All right, so this game we got Corleone. And Elias, if you're watching this recap, I think you probably would have seen it in the setup screen, but it's playing the villain Corleone version. So this is an AI scripted by Elias, the same scripter as the Scout AI from the previous game, for the previous set. And so Corleone likes a different set of units than Scout, but has the same sort of aggressive all-in strategy. And it'll be pretty obvious which units that he goes for. And then GamesGod is scripted by GamesGod as well. That's the name of the scripter and the name of the AI. And he's been developing it for quite a while. It's one of those AIs that's scripted to be able to playable on pretty much every map. So it does some things that are like maybe not optimized for one particular map like Arabia, but it still has a lot of strength in various other maps. And it has some good ranging to control as well. But for a map like Arabia, it can be slow sometimes. For example, it starts out training Loom before it trained his first villager, which is not always the best approach. So economy and booming is not usually the GamesGod's main strength. So we see Corleone bringing in the boar, building its first lumber camp. Hey GamesGod, happy you're able to see the match with your AI. Aha, we got a raid. For those who just joined, this is a AI tournament with 20 different AIs. They play one game against each other on Arabia and then another game on Arena. So in order to win this tournament, you have to be good at both maps. And we see some hair pushing from GamesGod, which sort of like they're not as pushable as the deer before, but if it got the hair this close to the TC, that shows that you can still sort of push them. We'll see if the devs change that or not. Fix that in like a new patch, or if they just kind of like go meh and just let people to push them in if they want them to. Yeah, this hair is just giving the scout trouble. Alright, that tree's almost gone. Maybe that hair will get pushed to the TC now. There we go. And that's a lot of villagers on one lumber camp. For whatever reason, I've noticed that Corleone often goes, like once it kills off most of its hunt, it'll send all of its villagers to wood. I'm not sure if that's part of the plan or not, but that seems to be something that it consistently does. Alright, so adding the barracks. And Corleone should be about 30 seconds faster, actually closer to a minute faster than GamesGod. And yeah, so both AIs have Loom at this point. Yeah, Corleone adds a archer range and a blacksmith. Yeah, that is something that was unfortunate that happened, is that, at least for AIs, somebody messed up the object data for cav archers, which means that the data that says that they fired an arrow gets reset before they fire an arrow, I think, or might be getting it mixed up. So we got a tower from GamesGod, which should be able to help protect this gold mining a little bit. Not a bad place for the tower. It'd be nice if it was up on the hill, a little bit closer to the gold, but it's okay. We got a spearman attacking a wolf here. And a spearman from Corleone already. Alright, so the villagers attack back. It's good that they didn't cancel the tower. And sending a new villager to attack it, but now we've got a skirmisher here instead. And that villager is being bold and is going to chase down this skirmisher, but actually not. I think eventually this tower will go up. Let's see if this... Okay, so that villager is also getting sent to attack. So I think for those who are wondering, I think this is the number civilian militia strategic number, which allows the villagers to be used in offense. But I'm not sure if it's really being effective in this particular game. But so far, just one villager killed. The tower was up, as we should see the skirmishers from Corleone scatter. The skirmishers have fletching, but no armor yet. And they seem to be checking to see if any villagers are garrisoned in the tower, and only avoid if villagers are garrisoned. Yeah, unfortunately, I think that's causing them to focus too much on the tower and not find other units. GamesGod's scout is coming in to help. Yeah, this scout is doing some good work here. The Corleone does have some spearmen, so once the spearmen arrive, that scout might stop being able to cut all these skirmishers down. Alright, let's see if Corleone starts using his spearmen to attack the scout. And looks like the answer is no. Oh, there we go. Alright, and the scout is down. The second tower going up. It's within range of this tower at least, so that should be good. But it's not really defending anything at this point, and GamesGod might be losing some villagers trying to come in and build it. Probably better spot would be over here by this lumber camp. But so far, 2 of the 3 villager kills that Corleone has are from sending villagers to build this tower. Three villager kills, and we got a tower over here. This tower's a bit better, but still, I think we need more towers on this side of the town. Alright, that tower was cancelled. Villagers doing the twirly dance, trying to figure out if they should continue on or not. But yeah, Corleone's military is starting to overwhelm GamesGod's defenses. Pretty much, the villagers are pretty much cooped underneath the TC at this point. From what I've seen in previous games, that Corleone will eventually start training villagers again once his military numbers reach a certain point, or maybe the game time gets long enough. Either way, the villager training will resume at some point. I guess it started right now. Alright, so the tower finally goes up. We'll see if GamesGod kind of gives up on the tower placement. Yeah, and this is really unfortunate. GamesGod has 5 scouts garrisoned in the stable, but isn't on garrisoning them. Yeah, lots of idle going on. 10 minutes of idle TC time for Corleone, and 5 minutes of idle eco time for GamesGod. Though I feel like it should be way more than this. I think this is probably the limitation of how Capture Rage counts idle eco time, is because these villagers are being given a task, and therefore, since they're being sent to gather resources, they're not counted as like being idle. But these villagers keep on getting sent to gather resources and then scared back to the TC all the time. Or Donjon and Archer range from Corleone. I'm partly continuing to keep the game going, just to see if GamesGod will ungarrison the scouts. Villager trying to repair the blacksmith, not really worth it, but oh well. But I think if GamesGod falls below 35 villagers, I think I'll call the game. Because these scouts have been cooped up in a stable for a really long time. And Corleone's army of 50 units, that's enough to kill those 5 scouts pretty quickly. Alright, I'm gonna call the game. We've been basically at the same point for like the last at least 5 minutes. So, unfortunately, GamesGod's tower defense wasn't enough. Corleone's aggressiveness was too much. But let's see what happens on Arena. All right, we got a snowy arena. This time also with hares. And GamesGod went Koreans. Alright, so we got the game on Arena. Corleone goes aggressive even on Arena, just like Scout does. And Corleone goes Saracens for the bonus against buildings that the ranged units have. And GamesGod is going Koreans, so if he goes for the same tower defense approach as last time, that should actually really suit the Koreans. We saw tower defense from Lieutenant do pretty well against one of Elias's AIs, so we could see if the same thing happens against Corleone. Yeah, unfortunately, I wasn't watching closely on the cows to see if there was a non-standard amount of them for any particular player. Corleone is on the way to Feudal Age, and so we should see some skirmishers and archers soon. Meanwhile, GamesGod's at 21 villagers so far. Also trying to push in a hare just like last time, but it seems like the hare's just like trying to enter the house or something like that. I'm not sure why it's trying to path that way. I guess that's one example of unpushable. So it looks like Corleone hasn't found GamesGod quite yet. But we'll see if Corleone is able to find GamesGod soon. Meanwhile, GamesGod is almost to Feudal Age. We'll see where he goes from here. So we got the barracks almost built. Added in a couple houses. Yeah, it doesn't have the wood for any other buildings. so we're not gonna be able to see the strategy quite yet. But we got a defensive tower that's in a decent spot. It's not really protecting any resources, but it is defending against the walls. But unfortunately, it's not going to be able to attack any melee attacking units outside the walls. GamesGod has found Corleone, though. Oh no. That scout is stopping one tile short of GamesGod's walls, so we're going to still be a bit more delayed. Alright, maybe attempt number 2. Alright, there's the wall. Let's see if Corleone starts attacking now. Looks like it is. But the tower is up from GamesGod. Adding in a stable, which is not traditional for Koreans. Alright, so Corleone has started attacking. Attacking slightly different wall tiles. But with the Ericson bonus, it shouldn't take that long for them to break through. Now I think Corleone's units, if they break through around here, they could eventually go around this tower and start surrounding GamesGod's town this way. So GamesGod really needs to get some stone collected and build another tower, maybe like right here or something. Yeah, if he wants to be able to defend his town well. But it doesn't look like the GamesGod is really emphasizing the gathering stone. The GamesGod has a second scout here. I wonder how he's going to use it, if he's going to go and try to defend. It looks like it is, but unfortunately he's being met by a spearman who kills it instantly. And another scout is on the way, which might end up having the same result. Armor being added for Corleone, and pretty close to breaking through the walls. Ah, we got a tower in this direction, but this might be too close to the walls. Let's see if these range units see the villager and start attacking it. And looks like the answer is yes. Now, unfortunately, this will probably cause GamesGod to keep on sending villagers to try and build that tower. And so GamesGod might end up losing a whole bunch of villagers this way. Alright, so that tower was denied or like cancelled. Second tower being built over here that's not the best place either. Alright, so where is GamesGod going to try and build the next tower? If it is going to try and build another tower at all. But it does seem to be stopping Corleone's units from being able to move forward. They don't seem to want to go around this way like I was thinking they would. That scout seems to be giving two different conflicting commands here. Attack and retreat at the same time. So, this tower is doing its job. Corleone killed 3 villagers that were trying to build a tower here. This gate might go down pretty quickly if the units from Corleone can go around the tower this way. Then the GamesGod could be in trouble. And GamesGod has 8 scouts. We'll have to see if there's some code that will ungarrison them properly. Maybe once they have 10, maybe they'll like have a force ungarrison. Either that or like scouts after this will be forced to not garrison inside. Okay, oh, we got a whole bunch of scouts that were let free. Let's see if this turns out differently. Corleone does have 4 spearmen. Seems like the scouts are being slowly killed off, which is probably what you'd expect, but it's at least nice to see the units getting put to use. And GamesGod is on the way to Castle Age this time. I'm curious to see what these units will do once they kill this farm. Are they going to go around? It looks like they like randomly can go through this like little walk right here. All right, not randomly. They are finding it correctly. So it looks like the surround might start happening soon here. We've got 2 scouts, and GamesGod is in Castle Age. We also got some towers being built here. These towers are now guard towers, which could prove real handy here. But they're not going to do much against these soldiers here. And this could be enough to keep GamesGod's eco idle. And if Corleone's units can keep on finding this passage through this way, then GamesGod's eco will continue to be threatened by Corleone's units. But I think if this tower is built, this will probably have enough range. It's hard to tell which circle is what, but one of them might be having enough range to be able to... We got these villagers trying to attack this, but failing. You hear the attack sound, but I don't feel like the attack is actually going through. Alright, then we got... How many Corleone soldiers do we still have here? We got 7 inside of GamesGod's town. Which I think will eventually be killed when the Corleone's units like randomly walk into the TC. But the rest of Corleone's armies might be kept idle outside the town here. So if GamesGod is as smart and able to just like stay back and boom up and train some military units, it might have enough to eventually attack back against Corleone. Seems like there's some sort of like conflicting commands going on with the villagers and the spearmen. We still got looks like 6 archers in GamesGod's town. Make that 5. Alright, so looks like these lumberjacks have finally be safe to start gathering wood. But these units are able to still walk through here, it looks like, though they get killed on the way. Also noticing that GamesGod doesn't have a mining camp on this gold. I think it's probably just relying on the gold here, which thankfully is well protected by the towers. Corleone has 70 military units though, so it'll take quite a while for GamesGod to be able to push back against Corleone if it ever is able to push back. And I think for those who are wondering, like, will Corleone eventually go to Castle Age? Elias would have to be the one that would answer that question, but I think it might. At the very least, if it gets pop kept, then it would start building up the resources to get to Castle Age. What GamesGod really needs is a tower over here on this end. I think if it had a tower here, it would prevent the Corleone soldiers from going around this way. Got a whole bunch of different ranged units here. Unfortunately, like, they're not going to do much against Corleone's skirmishers. We could see, if enough of them get trained, we could see them ungarrison against Corleone's. And they would start attacking Corleone's army. We've got a Sable that's almost fully garrisoned here. I think once one more knight is trained, that'll be enough for it to ungarrison and maybe clean up Corleone's soldiers that are in the town. But I think once they go outside the gates, then they will start getting killed. Alright, ungarrison time. That should be enough to kill off all the units inside the town. But not the units outside the town. We also got the archer range and garrison, it looks like. So we get to see some of GamesGod's micro here. Yeah, unfortunately, we discovered a bug with the Cav Archers not being able to fully finish their attack. And it was a game engine bug rather than an AI scripting logic bug. So GamesGod is able to start getting some kills off here against Corleone. Corleone's down to 40 military units. So military numbers are starting to equalize here. So it's starting to look like the towers will be enough to be able to stop Corleone. At least give GamesGod enough time to stabilize before all of the units that had garrisoned up are killed off. But instead we've got some more units being trained and coming as reinforcements here. And now we've got a castle, which should be enough to be kind of like put a nail in the coffin for Corleone's attack. I'm going to continue playing the game on just to make sure that GamesGod pushes forward to attack Corleone. But it definitely does look like GamesGod is going to win this one. Alright, the units were attacking the archer range, but it looks like they're retreating for the moment. GamesGod is definitely declaring this game won by building this aggressive TC. Alright, archer agents down, but just make sure that GamesGod's units start going toward Corleone's base. Yep, I think I'll call it here. Looks like GamesGod has the code to carry it the rest of the way. And it's not going to bug out, so I think victory is pretty much guaranteed for GamesGod now. So definitely a pretty close game, at least for most of it. So GamesGod had a decent eco for a while. Then you can kind of see that it was stalled for most of the game by Corleone. And then once the units were able to ungarrison, get enough military trained to kill off the units that were inside the town, it kind of brought a lot of momentum and kind of carried the game for the GamesGod for the rest of the way.